I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered. And so, one of the things that I've noticed, and I've been doing podcasts and radio shows for the last 8 years, so many people are really focusing on a product or a specific person that's the so called expert and all that. But the challenge that I find with many of these podcasts, and some of them are actually quite brilliant, and the information is actually spot on, but is that information relevant for you? And so oftentimes we get very excited about, oh, here's the new panacea, here's the new magic pill that's going to take care of everything, or here's the new magical device, super expensive one, by the way, that's going to change everything. And after investing all this time and money, you find out that you've gotten nowhere. And so the reason for this podcast is specifically not to promote a product or hyper promote a particular person, but really to share with you the process by which you can efficiently, intelligently navigate your own health journey. You see, I don't know you personally. I don't know what your specific problems are, but I do know one thing, and that is the process by which we make the best decisions is the same. And so, how do we actually do that? Well, through this podcast, which we're having a lot of fun with, it's super engaging, and that's through role playing. And so you can actually see yourself in the person that's coming up with a specific problem, and then the other person that tries to get some sort of resolution. Now, mind you, it's only about 6 minutes that we have time, so not a lot can happen, or in fact, sometimes a lot does happen but it's more about giving you the idea of two things. Number one, this is a real problem. You're not alone in the world. You can actually relate to the person having this problem, and there's hope for you as long as you start doing the right thing, and that is getting the right information or the right people to help guide you to some sort of resolution. So the fun part is this, is that you may get triggered through this, and sometimes that's exactly the point. Some people get very upset when they get triggered by things, but the truth of that, for that matter, and when so many people are all upset and intolerant about what other people are saying or doing, it's actually something internal that's disconnected, misaligned with who you really are, and you're fighting against that. And so, as Byron Katie likes to say, the pain that we feel is actually a signal of some work that we need to do. So if you do get triggered, know this, listen on, because there may be a resolution for you. Because what if life was such that you weren't triggered by anything? And that's not by using willpower, but it's just the fact that you've just resolved all these issues. And again, that's part of the reason for this podcast. So for today, we're going to do about a 6-minute podcast. After each of my guests, amazing guests, will be introducing themselves. And then after that 6 minutes, as I end it, then we'll unpack it. And so my hope is that you get some very specific distinctions and action steps that you can do to move forward to optimize your health. But once again, it's your responsibility. And honestly, unfairly perhaps, it does require your investment in time and effort. So, Cindy, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that we have a whole bunch of podcasts in the works coming up, so I'm super excited to meet all your amazing guests. Please introduce yourself, and then we will have Jana introduce herself. And forgive me, I'm a European, maybe a bit of a Scandinavian dent, and so I may mispronounce her name, and she's allowed to correct me any of those times. So, Cindy, we'll start off with you.
Yes. Hey, thank you so much for having me here. I am Dr. Cindy Stark, and I practice medicine here in Gainesville, Georgia. I've been an internal medicine physician for about 30 years. And when I turned 50 a few years ago, I kind of woke up to this thing in front of me where I realized that instead of really making a big difference of people in their health journeys in the hospitals, I was kind of more or less just managing their sicknesses. And I felt like my patients were getting stuck in a revolving door. So I completely pivoted. And now I run an online coaching business for men and women in the second halves of their lives so that they can kind of really come into whatever it is that they want to do in their lives, any dreams they have that are deep inside of them. And I help them identify subconscious blocks that are holding them back. So now I just do a little bit of medicine at the bedsides every month, and mostly I'm doing online coaching.
And I love what you're doing because you have a perspective that most coaches don't have, and that's by the simple fact that you're a doctor. And so the insights that you have on the medical field are amazing. But even more so, your heart and your passion to help people navigate and some of the lifestyle changes that they need to make so that they can be healthier. So I love what you're doing, Cindy.
Thank you.
Jana?
Hi, thank you both for having me. What a gift and a treat. So I am a longtime yoga teacher, yoga nidra guide. Most people don't know what yoga nidra is. I'm sure we'll touch, but it's laying down meditation. You don't move. It's just the shavasana. But we go so deep into the subconscious mind to start to rewrite some of the underlying energy and change the patterns. And I couple that with astrology. And I never meant to use astrology. It was just something that I did for fun. And a girlfriend asked me to look at her chart one day. And I said, you cannot take anything that I'm saying serious. I'll tell you what's there. And I just start reading it. And all of a sudden she gets quiet and I look over and she's got tears streaming down her face. She's like, you have to share this with people. And after about a decade of looking at this, I realized there's this really beautiful overlap with patterning in people, in like emotional needs and relational needs and communication needs that often are being overridden by society's plan for us or pressures. And when we can liberate what's natural for the individual, a lot of things start to unravel. And coupling that with Yoga Nidra, which is ultimately the deepest listening. I like to say that your body is an ear to the universe, and it's up to you to learn how to listen.
Ooh, I'm
I
getting
love
chills.
that. And let me give some context to that, by the way, for those people who don't believe in these kinds of things in astrology and energy. Here's the truth of the matter. Of the 10,000 name parts that we have in our body, each has its own energy signature. So even molecules, atoms, cells, they're able to emit energy and they're able to receive energy. So energy can never be lost. It's just transformed into other forms, just like, fire transforms into heat. So that energy is never lost. Why does that matter? Well, last time I checked, we live in a planet, in a universe, in a galaxy, and all of that are different patterns of energy. And so our bodies are energy. We've got networks of communication systems in our body, all based on energy. So guess what? It's like a complex, five-dimensional puzzle, if you will, all based on energy. That's why what Jana says, I think I got it right this time.
Jana.
Jana says is so relevant and so real. And you don't have to believe it, but experiencing it and having it be real is the key. Anyhow, so let's go into the problem. I know, Cindy, you got a problem. So go ahead. We got 6 minutes. We'll do the role play, and then Jana will guide you, and then we'll unpack that afterwards. Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, so Jana, actually about 6 weeks ago, I was coming home from Australia and I was trying to be this badass solo female traveler. And I was crossing the street with all of my bags. Okay, I was pushing a rolling suitcase and I fell. My suitcase wheels got stuck in a grate in the streets of Australia, and I fell straight down onto my right knee, busted my knee open, could barely even get up. And ever since then, I've been having a lot of neck, just horrible tightness and cracking. I've never heard my neck make these kinds of noises. And I just feel like it's just tight all the time. And I don't know. I've been to a chiropractor probably 8 times, trying to eat well and sleep. And I don't know what else I can do. It really concerns me because I already have some a little bit of scoliosis in my neck as it is. And so yeah, I would love if you could tell me anything I could do to help my neck get more flexible.
Yeah. I find neck stuff really quite interesting. So one of the things that I couple into the way that I work is a body map of conscious anatomy. And it's all written in the astrology as well. If people don't know, medical astrology, way back in the day, medical doctors had to know astrology. In Vedic medicine, the Jyotish, it's all mapped in the body. And so one of the things that I see immediately when I look at your chart, I got her chart information before this, is that she has Saturn conjunct her rising. And so what that means is that at the moment that she was born, the rising sign is the constellation that was on the eastern horizon the moment she was born. And Saturn has to do with boundaries, but when it's specifically placed right next to, well, it has lots more than just boundaries, but when it's placed really closely to the ascendant, it is this signature that a person carries that they feel overly responsible for absolutely everything, and they often carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. And so what you just told me, you said, I wanted to be this super traveler and do everything myself, and I'm not asking for help. I'm doing it all, and I'm carrying all this weight, and I had this accident. And I would love, what I would send you home with is a bit of a self-inquiry of where are you unable to ask for help? Where are you internalizing yourself as responsible for everything around you and people's problems? And what can you actually do to create a little bit of boundary so you're not carrying everybody's weight? Because what we often will see in the chart is anywhere that there's a burden, you might walk through your whole life with no issues whatsoever. But then all of a sudden something happens and it comes into the place of the body where the greatest pressure or weakness is. And I can see in your chart that you're already carrying so much. So of course it's going to come out in your neck, right? And then at the same time, with the practice of Yoga Nidra, it's a laying down meditation, and it allows you to work with your electromagnetic body. And what we're doing really deeply is working with your nervous system. And as you know, the nervous system, it signals everything. It signals like absolutely everything, how tight your muscles are holding or if they're relaxing, what kind of chemicals your endocrine system is releasing. And I have a practice that I would like to recommend to you. It's called bone deep listening. And this practice, what I do is I begin by mapping felt experience through your body. And as you feel different areas of your body, I'm actually mapping gray matter in your brain in a very specific order in order to bring your nervous system into a state of coherence. And I don't care if you're thinking, like meditation, people are like, silence your thoughts. I don't care about that because I know that we can't think and feel at the same time. They switch back and forth really quickly. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm going to bring you into a deep, deep, deep feeling state that will bring coherence into your nervous system, which then I'll guide you to go like find the marrow of your bones, like the inside of your bones, and find your fluid body from the point of your bones. And then once you're there, if you're actually in a state of coherence, your nervous system it is unable to signal your body to produce stress hormones. And instead, what it signals your body to do is to create, well, I sneak in things like emotions to get you producing oxytocin. And when we get the oxytocin flowing in your body, you'll go into a state of relaxation. And then I ask your bones to adjust themselves. So you're right now going to seek external help by a chiropractor, where this is, let's activate the doctor within, let's activate the healer within, and ask your bones to go back into the place that they want to be. And so we can't really do it here because you got to like I love what Dr. Bart said in the beginning. This stuff is going to ask you to participate in your own process. And that's my main thing is like, how can I get you to switch on the healer within? And yeah, so that's the practice that I would recommend.
Okay. I'm here for it. That's
Awesome.
And I do find it very interesting because I know about spiritual meanings of ailments. I did some Reiki, I took some Reiki classes, and I kind of got this awareness of the energy bodies that are inside of us, that everybody just thinks we're just physical, right? And the fact that I have attracted 2 or 3 accidents in my life to my neck, I don't think there's a coincidence in any of that. So it's some sort of a spiritual, I think, issue that I'm working through in this lifetime. And my mother has terrible arthritis in her neck, and so I really want to get rid of this once and for all.
Well, you have another really interesting thing in your chart. You have Mars in Capricorn, and Mars, wherever Mars is, it causes inflammation, but it also gives a lot of energy. And Capricorn is actually the bones, it's the skeleton. And so that your mother has arthritis, that's inflammation in the joints, right? And so there's that pattern exists in you as well. And so you're looking at like, how do I manage my own inflammation, especially around my bones? But also when I'm looking at your Saturn, Saturn is your karma. So it's your karmic lessons. And the way that it's positioned is actually just on top of your ascendant. And that means, and it's retrograde, which means that you're internalizing other people's stuff
Ugh,
and
yeah.
making it your own. And so boundaries are a really important life lesson for you, like a life lesson of how do I not take on everybody's stuff? And how do I give responsibility back to other? I can help you illuminate and see it because you're also incredibly wise. You have this really beautiful way of working with people because you're a Libra by sun and you have your moon is in Sagittarius. So you've got a lot of fire. You're a truth seeker. You understand people and relational realms and also your own personal stuff is boundaries, not taking on too much, giving it back to people to work with it themselves, and then manage inflammation so that.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
that's awesome.
Let's wrap it up there.
Yep.
So I want to start off with Cindy. What was that for you? What was that all about for you?
Wow. Well, I mean, just when she was introducing herself, I just got all over body chills. I have been drawn to Jana for a while, and I feel like when that kind of happens, that's my soul attracting another soul in this earth, and I feel like I can really get some healing by partnering with her because this really is a drag to have this. I got a lot of things I want to do in this earth, and I'm tired of dealing with it. So
I
it was
love
very enlightening, and I have a lot of hope that
Awesome.
Jana can help me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yana, what was
I
that for you?
I'm
What was that all
I
about for
love it. I love when people, the literal words that they say are like the theme words in the astrology. It makes what I do so easy because it's like, oh, I can validate that to
you?
your astrology and we can see it and then put the lens on it so it becomes a point of focus for their own healing or like what they become aware of within themselves. Because a lot of healing I find is self-awareness. It begins with self-awareness.
Yep.
Yeah, and the last thing that I ever want to do is think that I have to keep going to that chiropractor. I've been going, to a chiropractor since this really bad car accident when my neck was messed up, and years and years and years ago. And I've just often wondered, why aren't my bones staying in place? Like, why am I having to go to someone to externally manipulate my bones and then they just go right back to where they were before, making me have to go back, you know?
Right. So let me jump in here, and then I'm gonna give the hand over the mic to you guys as well, and just to give some context for the listeners as well. You see, all this whole navigation is all about getting the right kind of reference points. No different than a road map. You got all the different references, roads, signs, you got buildings, you got mountains. And unless you know what that language is, it's no different than if I'm speaking French to you guys and you have no clue what I'm saying. And so sometimes people, and I would imagine a lot of people actually are a little confused about this whole astrology thing and what was just shared today. But here's how you want to look at it. These are just reference points. And if you get the goosebumps, just like Cindy did, then it resonates and there's some truth in that. And if you don't get the goosebumps or if you don't feel it's right, well, then maybe it's not. And so language is precise and it's right on target or it's not. And so, but you have to start somewhere. And so clearly, there is so much evidence-based truth and what, I'm going to say your name wrong, so I'm sorry. Jana.
You could say Yana. That's what you want to say. That works.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm
Okay.
European, for God's sakes. Jana is saying, and so it's a matter of, okay, let me try this out. Let me try something else out and give it enough time so that I can see some progress. But if it's not, if it's not working out, then that is also fine. Then look for something else. But you have to give it time. The work that she does is something that's going to take perhaps, weeks, months before you get the ultimate results. Hopefully, right away. But you're absolutely right. And this is the key point that and mission, and message that I like people to understand. And the first part of any kind of conversation when it comes to health, it's responsibility. Today, so many people are abdicating the responsibility or blaming everybody else for their illness, their lack of health, and everything else, but assuming that responsibility, and even more so, it's adopting that internal healing power that we all have, just with the right tools. You just have to find the right tools. So want to hand the mic over to you guys, and I'm loving this conversation.
I find one thing that I love what you said about how it takes time. I really love everything that you're saying. The patterning of behavior creates patterns in the body. And so the feedback that I offered to Dr. Cindy is actually asking her to unravel a lifelong pattern. Can you hear that? And so
Yeah.
that's where it can take a lot of time, or she could have a light bulb moment and repattern the energy underneath it and shift it very quickly. And that's the thing that's unknown always. How committed are we to our patterns? And how much identity, because I didn't say this, but the knee, she had a knee injury. We talk about the knee as the house of the ego. And so the question is, how much identity do you have wrapped up in being responsible for other people, or not having those bad boundaries, like I'm available, or I can do it, or I can be a superhero in this moment? How much identity and ego is wrapped up in that will definitely impact how long it takes to unravel the pattern, which then will change the way that the muscles are gripping and pulling you back out of alignment. But it's really this extraordinarily powerful feedback system, the biofeedback system of behavior, body, behavior, body, behavior, body. And then you shift the behavior and the belief, and the body has no choice but to shift.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
People, yeah, people would rather
Cindy,
take medicine or get a quick fix, but
Cindy, what do you have to, how do you answer that?
Well, I mean, it just seems like, first of all, I am not one of those people that are they say if you're whatever you're willing to fight for, that's what you get to keep. And I'm never going to be one of those people that fight to keep my limitations. And kind of I've reached a point where I'm sick of a lot of things in my life, and I've changed everything in my life. I quit a full-time career that was no longer resonating with me. I left a loveless relationship with my kid's dad, where it's just so a lot of things I have fought for myself in these last 2 years to completely change where I am in my life. And I just I'm just really hopeful that I don't. I mean, I love getting a massage. I love going to the chiropractor, but I don't. I would much rather deal with what Jana can help me identify in my soul body than constantly have to just be, almost addicted to these women manipulating my muscles and my bones, my muscles and my bones. It's just like every 2 weeks, I'm just spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So to unwind things, to make me feel like a flexible, free woman. And so I'm just really, really
But here's
encouraged
here's
that she
something
can
that
help
should
me.
resonate very nicely with you, since you are a allopathic doctor, right? And formerly trained in that manner. There's this one fellow, I think he's called like the father of medicine. His name starts like Hippocrates or something like that. And 2,500 years ago, he made a very clear statement, and I'm going to bastardize it a little bit, but basically, he said that someone needs to be willing to give up whatever it is that's making them sick. And so it's the mental part that they need to give up. And here's the truth about all of this, just so that people get a context of this as well, is that we're like supercomputers. We're running all these programs, and some of these programs get infected. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of our life. They get infected even before we were born, even before we were conceived, through the genetics and everything else that's happening. And so the truth of the matter is that we're running a lot of these programs unconsciously, and they're showing up. And it's no different than a CEO in his mid 50s, having a 5-year-old temper tantrum because, some sort of programming that he had when he was 5 years old. And so that is the truth. And that is exactly what Jana is trying to do, is help you rewire those patterns, or otherwise, pattern networks, so that you are no longer reacting to a trigger that is causing you all this discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, just, in my personal life, I realized one of the biggest problems I had were, in romantic relationships. So I've kind of like sworn off romantic relationships right now because I'm so bad with having boundaries. And also just having this little conversation with Jana this morning has made me realize that maybe if I can identify a pattern, that I don't have to say that about myself anymore, that I'm never going to be able to trust myself again. So I just may as well be alone for the rest of my life. And it also lets me know, the things I see my mom doing with having really bad boundaries with everybody. That is why it is triggering me so much, because it's something that's rooted in me too, through her. And I see her getting unhealthier and unhealthier. And and her 78-year-old little arthritic neck, it's just pitiful to watch. It's heartbreaking.
Jana?
I didn't say that it came from your mom, but it says that right in your chart. And so working like deeply in your subconscious mind to repattern, it's a big repatterning. That's one of the really beautiful things about yoga nidra though, as well, is because what we do working with the nervous system to come into coherence, we actually shift your brainwave states in the process. So we typically run at like a beta brainwave state, and the beta is a really wide range. And then when you close your eyes, there's like 3 to 7 minutes when you're falling asleep and when you wake up, if it's not with an alarm, where you'll naturally go into alpha. And then we go into theta when we're sleeping. That's where you find REM sleep. And in these alpha theta brainwave states, you can reprogram beliefs and patterns in a really fast and efficient way. And so what we do within the practice of yoga nidra is I'm working with your nervous system to downregulate the brainwave speed. So a coherent alpha theta ride, and then you come up with your own statement. So I don't know what it would be because it's boundaries. You would come up with a statement that's like, I am, and it's an action word, and you say it as if it's already true. And once I get you into that state in the practice, you repeat that to yourself a few times as if it's already true right now in the moment, and you allow yourself to believe it. And because you're in this state that it's technically called a hypnagogic state, which is a similar state that you go into in hypnosis, like hypnotherapy or even theta brainwave or theta therapy. In yoga nidra, we're in a similar place, but you're doing the programming instead of the hypnotist. It's coming from inside. And so if you do this repeatedly for a few days or weeks or maybe months, you can take this program that you received when you were a little girl by witnessing your mother. That's a deep part of the fabric of who you are. But then you overwrite it with a new program. It's like when you get a notification that there's a new OS available for your computer. And it's a little bit uncomfortable because things are in different places and you're not quite sure where it is. But you go in, and within the practice of yoga nidra, it's like you're uploading a new operating system with a changed belief. And then you can shed the old one without trying, actually. It's the effortless practice. And so, yeah. And so that's the depth that you can work when you get yourself into those states. People like Dr. Andrew Lieberman, are you familiar with his work? He calls yoga nidra non-sleep deep rest. And so you bring yourself into like the deepest restful state, and the whole system, nervous system, endocrine system, everything is operating at a different level. And that's where really big change can happen, because then when you come back into beta, the pattern, the frequency pattern that's being fed to your conscious mind is different.
I love it.
Seems
So
like
with that,
about
as we wrap it up, our time's up. I just want to give another context, if you will, and that is this. I mean, we've evolved over millions of years in harmony with nature. And so the reason that we've survived all these years is because the systems within our body are very efficient. And in fact, the brain, specifically in the conscious mind, seeks the path of least resistance. So that's what's most efficient. And so if you're familiar with music, people write music. And let's take an orchestra as an example, symphony orchestra as an example. I mean, you got all these different players, all these different instruments, all these different, musical notes. And then you can tell when it's all harmonious, and you can tell when it's not. Especially when they're in the beginning, when they're tuning everything, it's just like it's a crazy cacophony of noise, right? And so the truth of the matter is that as we've evolved naturally in harmony with nature, which was absolutely disrupted about 10,000 or 15,000 years ago, with the invention of agriculture and what have you, and modern technology, our body is constantly being attacked by so much toxic noise, environmental toxins, all whatever that's absolutely disrupting all these natural processes. And so one of the biggest ones is our thoughts and our emotions. And the time that is most critically important for us to help heal the body, to rejuvenate, and to have the body recover is sleep. And nowadays, sleep is so absent with so many people. So clearly, what she's sharing with us today with Yoga Nidra is that ability to capture some extra Z's, if you will, in the most profound healing manner that helps rewire your brain, helps rewire those communication networks energetically so that it just works a lot better. Because here's the other truth, is that we do have the genetics, the DNA, and obviously somebody will disagree with me somewhere, somehow. That always happens. But we have the blueprint of a perfectly functioning body. And we also have the dashboard that tells us what's not working right now. And so it's a matter of, okay, let's try some different things out to create that harmony within. Because here's the truth, I don't think anybody really, really wants to be in pain or have any kind of disease. And that's why I say today's world, we no longer have an excuse to be sick, simply because the information's out there, the people out there, the resources out there, a lot of it very affordable so that you can make major shifts. So I'd like to have each of you just wrap up briefly how they get a hold of you, and one final comment. I'll start off with Cindy.
Yes, well, everybody can find me on the internet. I haven't changed it over yet. So currently it is therealdrcindy.com, although that is being changed over to drsindystark.com.
You were supposed to change that before the show. What happened?
Well, you know what? I'll have it changed before the next show. My VA is working on it. So
Okay.
let's just say it's drsindystark.com, because that's where it's going to be. And then Facebook and Instagram at Cindy Stark. And yeah, final thoughts is just that I really appreciate the opportunity being on this show with you today and helping people learn that there are other ways to acquire true, authentic health without medicines and using other people to always be helping you. You have that wiring inside your own body.
I love it. And just so we are clear, when this airs, it will be drsindystark.com, and that's Stark with STARKE.com. And the truth of the matter is that we all need coaches. I know there's professional athletes and CEOs. They not only just have one coach, they have multiple coaches. There's so many wonderful coaches out there that don't have a medical background, but whenever you can, get one with a medical background. And one of her top specialties, and correct me if I'm wrong, is really about burnout, PTSD, depression, where life is very overwhelming, and how to best navigate that. And I do a shout out for any docs listening, because Dr. Cindy is certainly somebody you want to reach out to, because you can't pull a wool over her head, because she's a doctor. She knows what it's like to be a doc. But once again, she's out there for everyone, and she's absolutely amazing.
That's right.
Jana?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really easy to track down, janaroemer.com, and there's an E in Roemer, Roemer, and the same on Instagram, _Jana_Renee, or Roemer, pardon me. I also have a website called attunetothemoon.com, where you can find all of the astronidras. And so each sign has multiple practices, and I work on everything from like the mental, emotional side of things to deep embodiment, physical side of things. So pretty easy to find.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you both. This is incredibly insightful. Love the fact that you are basically addressing hope and clarity and opportunity for all types of people, whether they're very scientific or quite the opposite, because there's truth in the matter of what you both shared today, and certainly love the astrological component to that. I have my own astral cartographer, and he was amazed by my chart, and he gave me permission to call myself multidimensional, which absolutely describes what I am. So I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker. This is the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered. Listen in to more insights. And here's the thing, it's up to you. I know it can be hard. It can be challenging. It can be frustrating. Guess what? I get challenged and frustrated too. And so there's so much information. It's overwhelming. It's just a matter of the hard work. And I think it's about just making that final commitment to say, yes, I'm going to do it. I got this, and it's happening. And as Jana also very eloquently said, you've also got to change your identity. Thank you so much, and we will be back.